Hi, this is Matt Donegan from Challenger Stories. I'm here with Bala Vakamalla, founder of Infabytes. Infabytes is an IoT infrastructure as a platform provider for the energy sector. Bala, what does that actually mean? What is IoT infrastructure as a platform?
Okay, so IoT means Internet of Things. Thanks for introducing that, first of all. So yeah, basically IoT is Internet of Things. And in order to build a platform for the companies in energy domains or the insurance domains, it's very difficult to build that expertise all the way. It takes years for them to build this platform. So whereas companies can hire our services, so it comes like a package. So this platform provides an end-to-end integration services for devices collecting the data and then providing a useful information to the engineers. For example, if it is a service companies, the engineers would be interested on the customer end data, so they can save some trips to the customer houses, for example.
Okay, so just in summary, now we've spoken before, obviously, and I was really excited about your product. And the reason why I was really excited is I think it is a cure for a very succinct pain. And that is the example that we discussed was that a boiler breaks down, someone gets called, someone panics, gets the engineer, calls the engineer, says, would you come around? They might be under an insurance-based service, and in which case an engineer comes around, a pretty high cost thing, might be in the middle of the night, that could be on a public holiday. So you've got someone who's got something that's broken down, like their boiler, so they've got no hot water. It's happened to me. It happened to me
Yes,
on New Year's Eve once. Really
exactly.
expensive to bring someone out. Massive pain point. It's a pain point for the insurance companies. It's a pain point for the engineer. Doesn't want to get a call on New Year's Eve, and it's a massive pain point for the customer.
For the
What
customer.
your platform does, and this is what really excited me, is it spots if there's any trouble before the trouble happens, and then contacts the insurance company or the engineer and says, there's going to be a problem, come around and fix it before it breaks. Is that essentially what it is?
Yes, exactly. So precisely, it solves the user problems by actually continuously monitoring on behalf of them. So they don't have to monitor what's happening in their house. So this not only develops and process the information from the boilers, it also takes the home IoT capable devices. For example, if you have a leak detected in your house, so whereas if you have an leak detection mechanism, then our platform will extract all the data from the specific water leaking systems and provide a useful information for the engineers and also the end user, so they know exactly what the problem is and they don't have to panic or rush about the problem. Sometimes you can actually remotely resolve the problem too
Yeah. I
by
love this
giving a
product.
simple instructions.
I love this product. What you've done is you've kind of described it to me in a very, may I say, very kind of, this is what it does technically. What it does to me is it cures a massive pain point. And it's one of those products that when I hear about it, I say, why hasn't anybody done this before? Has anybody done this before? And
Yeah,
if the answer's no, then what's the blockers? Why hasn't someone done this?
that's an interesting question. I mean, there are companies who tried this solutions. There are companies who actually tried to develop a uh, complete revolution in this domain, but they couldn't succeed because of the integration issues. For example, in a typical house, I might have a Bosch boiler, and I might have a uh, some X company water leak detection system, and I might have for example, some British gas energy provider. So, in order to link all these services as one common platform, so we need to have bespoke, uh, a bespoke licensed agreements with all these companies, and that has become a challenge for the big companies. So they don't want to enter into these areas. But the problem is the end customer don't. I mean, they need the problem to be solved rather than who owns the problem. So here we are stepping in as a common solution that connects all these dots by having a simple and a small agreements with the major companies.
Yeah.
That way, we can provide this service to the customers, so they can have the peace of mind when they are away, when they are on holiday or something.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. I can see where the complexity may lie in terms of, I think there's complexities in terms of what the business model is, because the stakeholders, where does the pain point lie? Where's the paying customer? And you kind of think it might reside with the insurance companies or the service providers, or where is it going to sit? So I think there's a big challenge there, and I can see where that might be, there might be hurdles to get through. But you've already done the tech, haven't you? You built the technology. So it's not a technical issue any longer.
Yes,
It's a
it's not the
business
technical
challenge.
issue anymore. Yes,
Right.
this is where our expertise is on technology. So we build this platform so that it is capable to integrate with any type of smart Internet of Things devices.
Yeah.
So it's not only the water detection system. It can detect the boilers. It can detect the temperature and humidity sensors and CO2 sensors. It can collect all the information from the house and then provide a meaningful information uh, in a clear instructions to the
So
customers and also the end engineers.
so there are circa, and you're probably going to be able to correct me on this, circa 15 to 20 million boilers in the UK. Is that right? Just in
Yes,
the
that's
UK?
right.
Yeah.
So it is certainly over 20 million boilers
Right.
in UK alone, and that is and most of them are legacy boilers as well.
Yeah.
So whereas the advantage of our device, I mean, we have a device as well which supports the legacy devices that can be upgraded. So using these devices, we can detect we have implemented certain protocols which gets the data from the legacy devices too. So,
Right.
but over the time, if when you have the new devices, then it is easy to replace. You don't have to invest huge amount of money
Yeah.
to change the boiler or the temperature system in your
Yeah.
house.
So this not only says that there's a problem, but as I recall, it has the potential to say exactly what the problem is and what part isn't working in some models, right?
Exactly. With our data analytics, we take granularity of the data. We monitor every 2 minutes of the data in real time. So that gives us a quite good amount of data to process. So that way we learn we learn and we predict what's going to happen based on some energy patterns and some behavioral patterns as well. For example, we combine with the external weather temperature too and predict some problems that might come up ahead.
So actually, just thinking about it more and more, obviously it's going to work with heat pumps. It will work with other energy
Yeah.
sources. So it's not a hardware issue. The excitement, I guess, about part of me is thinking about this particular product is that the use cases are not only when it reaches critical function, the use cases is stopping it to get to critical function. So when the system is depleted or not excuse the pun, firing on all cylinders, it can spot that problem then. So it then becomes a maintenance issue and not a major repair emergency issue. Is that right?
That's perfectly right, Matt. That's what we are aiming actually. So it can precisely detect before the problem has actually occurred.
Yeah.
So this is called the preventive maintenance. So why not to do the maintenance if you can prevent it? And why not to report this problem to the engineers before we actually caught the problem?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
look, we've talked about product. We've talked about the potential for the product, and when we spoke previously, I was super excited by it because I can really see it, and I can see it even more now because my little mind start to think about the other range of uses it has in the life cycle of the equipment as well. And as people are moving over technology, because it's manufacturer and technology agnostic, i.e. the hardware, then it becomes utterly scalable. And it's got a massive marketplace. It's got over 20 million potential users right now, right this minute.
Exactly. Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so
Yeah.
massive market, and that's just in the UK. So massive
That's just
marketplace,
okay. Yes.
huge potential. So what's the challenges about bringing something like this to market?
Okay. So the main challenges are uh, integrating uh, with the manufacturer. So, for example, there are few prominent manufacturers like Honeywell uh, or British Gas. Well, British Gas do not manufacture the boilers themselves, but for example, Honeywell does manufacture, and then there is a other manufacturer called Heatwave. I think there are some grade two manufacturers as well, but all of them, in order to integrate with each and every boiler, the challenges would come like so. In order to make a policies with them, like say for example, we have to so our boiler data can be used only within this area, and then we will not provide you, for example, X amount of data. And there are certain restrictions, like every boiler have their own standards of protocols,
Uh-huh.
which some of them are not willing to share to third party people. So again, this is an understanding. This is where if the energy consortium or probably the carbon emissions consortium like has come up and say we all have to work together so we can share this data to the third party companies, so which will actually enable the end users a peace of mind, and also at the same time the manufacturers will have the guarantee to retain their protocols and to retain the data for themselves too, in order to add more data analytics.
Yeah.
So there is no risk in sharing that. If they can assure that sort of policy, then it's very easy to penetrate. I think the policies, getting the policies integrated, getting the companies involved, that is where the challenge has coming up to.
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I can see that's going to be a fairly sizable challenge because
Yeah.
you've got some very large businesses there turning over hundreds of millions of pounds,
Yes.
and they can be really slow to respond. So get that. Yeah, I can understand where that might be. So okay, so that's some of the challenges. So it's that the go-to-market is going to be complex and
Yeah.
political potentially, not political as in party political, but political in that.
Yeah, in the landscape, yeah. Actually, some domains. So, for example, some we have met some hotel managers and also some big apartment managers, like facility managers. The common problem we are hearing from them is, no, I got all this fantastic fancy dashboard, but but this can only work with a specific device, and it cannot. I cannot control everything because this has been from a different manufacturer. This has been different manufacturer.
Yeah.
So that problem still exists as a ground level, but no one actually addressing it properly. Uh, so
Right.
whereas we are trying to solve that problem, but we can see the challenges involved as it involves multiple companies.
Yeah. Okay. How long has the product been developed for? As in, how long has it been ready to go to market?
Okay, so it has been the first phase has been done in 20 by just before we hit the COVID in 2019. Now after that we have improved it uh, uh, quite significantly so that it has the capability to accommodate other devices, other home automation devices. So that's a beta version that we got that we got that in tested and production in 2022. So I can say roughly around since 2022 till today. We are optimizing the product, but at the same time, it can be deployed and tested too. So in some features of the product is ready to be deployed and tested.
Okay. I can, part of me's thinking of a slightly different use case for this as well. So, which is probably a conversation to have another time to see how the market develops. So, what's your background anyway? What's made you create this product?
Okay. So from beginning, I'm passionate about electronics and technology. So my background, when I started my master's in Greenwich University, London, basically. So I was fascinated with the train radios in London Underground. So yeah, whenever I travel them, I feel like, I mean, what communication they are using and how they uh, interact. And slowly, during from my college days and from my early career days, I always have this passion to develop a niche product that comes to the market and fits to the market. So I think my vision has been correct in 50% because IoT, if you see the IoT, it is, if you see it now, it is in the right momentum. It is making, I mean, every big company is trying to develop features or make advantage of making use of the Internet of Things. But to actually landed into this domain, it needs a lot of hard work and dedication. So whereas I was trying to learn a lot of things on Internet of Things and build a product on my own, that's a kind of it's a kind of regret too, because I went into the engineering domain and then coming back to the business domain, which is slightly taking me few years of my time away. But it is interesting. I mean, any business person or any person who wants to build a product, if they know the nitty gritty details of how the product works, how the technology works, it's absolutely great.
So you've taken a couple of twists and turns in developing the business, in developing the product. Is there anything that you would have done differently?
Yeah, certainly. So I would have tested the market first before actually developing the product. So I would have gone I don't need to develop each and every feature. So I should have gone to the market with one or two features, test the market, and then take the feedback and then do it. But next time, if I do that, this is a good and expensive learning. But next time, if I do the product again, my point of view would be what precisely I'm solving to the user. So from there, I will work backwards.
Yeah. So bit of lean startup methodology.
Yeah, lean start exactly.
Yeah, and then I mean, and you could even deploy lean marketing methodology as well in rolling the product out. It'd be a kind of an interesting philosophy, but very much lean. You know, obviously that whole philosophy, that agile development, but actually testing the marketplace,
Testing the
defining what the
market.
product is, doing those really fast. You know, learn fast, fail fast. People say.
Yes,
Obviously, don't fail too much, but actually failing is good. You know, you learn from mistakes. You don't learn by the assumptions that you make. You learn by the feedback that you get. So, absolutely,
yeah,
incredibly insightful. Actually, that you've been through that journey. It's a real use
exactly.
case, isn't it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Also, I tell to founders that do not underestimate the power of marketing. So the marketing is really good tool. Like it's a very developed now. So we once you get that channel correctly working, so it can give you a lot more better results
yeah,
compared
yeah,
to the traditional ways.
yeah. The one thing that people misunderstand about marketing is that marketing's maths. It's people look at it as some kind of a set of obscure
Yeah,
tactics aligned to a strategy. And actually, the basic fundamentals of it is try something out, test, measure, see if it works, see if it's giving you the maximum returns, or you keep deploying it until you get the maximum returns that you can do, and keep on changing until you've reached that point. When you put it like that, it's actually relatively simple. But obviously, marketing in itself is still a kind of complex area. Time do you spend on learning about marketing? Because it's not your background in the first place. Businesses do three things, right? They
yeah.
market and sell a product, they deliver a product or a service, and they count the money. They sell, they do, and they count. How much attention are you now giving to the sell component?
Yeah, so these days I have realized the importance of marketing and then giving more about. So now we now have a dedicated marketing manager who look after specific channels on branding and also productizing. So because we have solutions that can fit in various channels, but actually to find the right customer who are interested to engage immediately with one of the solutions that we have. So our marketing team currently working on that. So I
Yeah,
spend approximately every day at least 1 to 2 hours speaking with them.
that's good.
So earlier it was 0 hours, but now yeah, it's 1 to 2 hours. Earlier I was focusing purely on product, nothing else.
Yeah, there's an expression as well. Once you reach a certain point with a technology product, is the product is marketing and marketing is product. You
Yeah,
know, the product itself, once it gains traction, then it's the product can drag everything else along if it's that good, because you solve a very acute, very significant actually problem in the marketplace that could save hundreds of millions of pounds
definitely.
in replacement equipment, let alone the labour that's deployed in order to fix this, then you would think that actually that product will drag the market along with it. Yeah, fascinating place to be in at the moment. Okay, so we've talked about what you would do differently in terms of developing the product and learning about marketing a bit earlier. What's been the biggest lesson that you've learned aside of lean methodology in developing the business, not the product, but the business?
Yeah. So the lessons I have learned is, I mean, it's the sustainability. So, for example, you should have your ideas aligned with the ecosystem. So the focus and the work that you are keeping on your product, it has to solve at least a few areas of the current problems that the world is facing. So, for example, the climate change issues or the carbon neutral issues. So, for example, with the products that we have, if it doesn't fit in these domains, then I don't have anything to actually go and talk about whenever I'm speaking with any leaders in the industry, because they do care about the environmental issues or the impacts that the products can have at very high level.
Yeah.
So you need to have that awareness whether this product can be sustainable, or if it doesn't, then we have to learn how to quickly switch.
Yeah, that's yet another use case for this, isn't it? Because when you look at how efficient a domestic boiler is, it's often quoted as being more than 90% efficient in the data that you find from the manufacturers. But because of the installation and because of wear and lack of maintenance, it can be below 80, it can be below 70%, and therefore there's
Exactly.
significant increase in the energy consumption of that unit because it's working harder to achieve the same results. The customer doesn't
Yeah,
know that.
exactly.
Doesn't know that their
Also
energy
reducing
bill.
the engineering trips.
It does
Yeah,
what's going.
also reducing the engineered trips. So
Yeah,
that saves the fuel, that saves the carbon
yeah,
emissions.
yeah. It's just it. This is why when we first spoke, it seemed like such a no-brainer. It's just got so many different benefits, and I know this might sound like I'm hyper promoting your business. I'm
Thank
not.
you.
Well, the simple fact is I can't understand. Yes, it's got its challenges with regards to that kind of the manufacturer political landscape. But when it comes to, is there a really acute problem? Yes. In fact, there's at least three, if not four, I can think of. And can it be solved? Yes. Can it be solved by one product? Yes. It just seems like such a no-brainer. I'm sure, that where the bottlenecks are and where the challenges are in the business, it's such because you're trying to cure such a big, powerful problem. You're going to come across some pretty big and immovable forces, although you kind of can't understand why. But hey, so I find the whole thing absolutely fascinating. I really do. So look, your product is kind of inspiring, right? Who inspires you?
I get inspired by business leaders. So how they manage, how they steer big ships. So a small decision can be a small wrong decision can have a huge impact on the business, and many lives can be impacted. At the same time, one good decision, it can you know uh, create a lot of positivity to the entire community, or probably a new kind of ecosystem can be developed where people can rely on that company, and you know
Yeah.
have some decent life. Yeah, that kind of leaders I do get inspired.
So guys that have made or prepared to make the really big calls. I guess from the technology sector, you could look at someone like, he's not everybody's cup of tea, but someone like Jeff Bezos.
Jeff Bezos, exactly.
He's got some
Yeah,
great examples. But there are a lot of really, really big key decisions. You look at Amazon servers are actually one of the biggest parts, if not the biggest part of the business in terms of revenue and profit generation. I love the
yeah,
story about behind Prime as well. The original rationale behind Prime was the
yeah.
fact that,
Have you read the Everything Store? That's also a
yes,
fantastic book.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, brilliant book, right? Great stories in there. It's kind of war stories for businessmen, isn't it?
exactly. Some
Yeah,
of the concepts like two pizza rule and working backwards, all these things, like they are real time examples of
yeah,
how and they started very very uh, small business. For example, completely in a small 100 square feet room where they are physically selling the books,
yeah,
but the only niche thing was online.
yeah.
That's the only niche thing that Jeff Bezos caught on that time, and then he expanded into many other things like Fire Stick, Cloud.
Yeah. Yeah. Just saw what was adjacent, and it wasn't opportunistic. It was understanding what the market requirements were. And there's a great thing. There's a great learning. Often it is the byproduct of a business which gives it its real value. So the
Exactly.
byproduct of the sort of the thing that had to happen for Amazon to be as big as it is that it had enormous server power. Well, if you're creating that much data and those data centers and you're utilizing that data, you're going to end up with a massive amount of technology that then in its latency can be used by others. And I guess that's probably where the rationale came from in the first place about the cloud computing side of the business. So yeah, yeah, I think we're completely aligned about how interesting that is.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
he kind of is a bit of a Marmite figure, Jeff Bezos. I'm sure he's not everybody's cup of tea, but you cannot help but admire the rationale and the thinking, the strategy and the vision that the man had in the first place. So yeah, great book, The Everything Store. Absolutely wonderful. Okay, so look, taking the product to market at the moment, what do you find is the biggest challenge in running a business in general?
well, cash flow.
Cash
So
flow.
the biggest challenge is cash flow, especially the small companies or the people who don't have any investors who are self-funded and running the business on their own. Obviously, I want to do this particular piece of task for this week, but I have to postpone that for 2 weeks later, or probably when the current things has been done. I can't increase my team. I can't. So there are so many things I have to juggle. Obviously, every business will have their own challenges, but especially when small businesses who are running with self-funded without any external revenue. So they purely get revenue purely on by themselves or by selling the product or
Yeah.
selling their services. So you have to juggle quite a lot of the balls.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's difficult. I mean,
Oh yeah, it is.
it doesn't, in some respects, it doesn't necessarily become easier when you get VC investment. Obviously, the timelines and the controls are in place. So there's a real balance to be set about
Yes. Yeah.
acquiring institutional funding. And look, that's a strategic decision that you're making at the moment. And, let's see how that plays out. Okay, great. So one last question, and it's about your 18-year-old self. If you met your 18-year-old self walking along the street and they weren't looking at their iPhone or their device as they walk past you,
Yes. Yeah.
what would you say to them?
That's an interesting question. Being through 20 years in commercial market, so I went through many ups and lows. So based on that experience, I can tell to them. Otherwise, I am same as 18 years old. Like I feel very young at my heart. So I don't have I can't say anything to them. But what I can say is always fundamentals do work. So stick to your fundamentals. So one is if you are committed, get it done. Don't leave it in the middle. So but it doesn't matter about the result, the end result, whether it's a win or not. But don't think that you're going to fail and then give up in middle. So just complete what you have started. And there is no easy way. Obviously, there is only one way, which is long way. It will take some time, but if you are focused and do the hard work, then there will be something waiting for you, which you will cherish at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a journey, not end,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
you will see the milestones,
Yeah.
smooth milestones ahead if you continuously apply focus and hard work without any deterrent.
Yeah. Just that focus can give you the results to an extent,
Exactly.
but actually just have self-belief and go for it, remain focused.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But Bala, thank you so much for your time today. I love the product. I mean, I think it's a game changer. It's not often
Thank you, man.
I speak to businesses and they literally have a game-changing product.
Hopefully,
It's got so much obvious benefits. It's one of those things you think it just has to happen in one way, shape or form. So look, let's keep in contact. I really want to find out what's going on about the product. I want to keep in contact on a regular basis, actually, because I think it's an incredibly exciting thing. Thank you so much for the time today. And let's keep in contact. Thank you, Bala, very much.
thank you, Matt. Thank you so much for having me today. It was nice talking to you, and we touched quite good few topics.
Yeah, we did.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Bala. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye bye.